The airport buzzes with the usual hum of travelers, rolling suitcases, overhead announcements, and the scent of coffee from distant kiosks. But amidst it all, a sharp, persistent bark cuts through the air, jarring the mundane. It's not a typical noise. It's an alarmed, high-pitched sound, urgent, like something's wrong. Security is already on the move before they even realize where the sound is coming from. Near the conveyor belt, a small black and tan dog strains against its handler's leash, its body rigid, its nose twitching furiously as it stares at one suitcase among dozens, a small carry, lying innocently on the floor. The dog's handler tries to tug the dog away, but the canine refuses to budge. Its barks are louder now, insistent. The crowd around them continues to shuffle, oblivious, until the murmurs begin. "What's going on?" Someone whispers. "Is it a drug bust?" Another person guesses. But no one could have imagined the truth. The suitcase, unassuming, black with no distinguishing marks, has something hidden inside. Something far darker than anyone could have prepared for. It begins with confusion. The canine's handler, a young woman named Sarah, is accustomed to seeing dogs react to the odd scent of contraband. But this was different. Her heart skips a beat as she watches the dog tremble, its eyes wide with what seems like genuine fear. She leans down to calm the animal, whispering softly, "What's wrong?" Her voice barely registers against the rising tension. The crowd around them gathers, drawn by the dog's urgent behavior. Sarah doesn't know what to think. Her eyes flicker to the baggage handler nearby, a teenage boy just starting his shift. He notices the commotion and moves to investigate, unaware of the rising tension in the air. As he leans in to inspect the suitcase, Sarah's heart races. The canine, now growling, steps forward, its paws scraping the tile floor. Then, like a switch has been flipped, the handler calls for backup. The boy steps back, nervously rubbing the back of his neck, unsure of what to make of it. "Call for security," Sarah murmurs to herself. The hairs on the back of her neck prickle as the crowd grows. People are starting to notice. The dog's barks echo in her ears, louder and more insistent, as if trying to communicate something Sarah herself cannot yet comprehend. She looks around, the pressure mounting, feeling the weight of an invisible presence hanging in the air. She kneels beside the dog, and with a steady hand, removes the leash, stepping forward to approach the suitcase. Every inch of her body is on alert, a part of her already bracing for something unexpected. It's a small movement, barely perceptible, but the sudden shudder of Sarah's hands betrays her calm facade. She reaches for the suitcase's handle, her fingers trembling slightly, but she doesn't stop. With a swift motion, she flips the latch. There's no dramatic click or pop. It's unnervingly smooth, almost as though the suitcase has been prepared to be opened, as if it has been waiting. The canine whines, pacing in circles, its fur bristling. Sarah, holding her breath, opens the case. And then, for a moment, everything goes still. Inside, nestled carefully among folded clothes, lies a bundle of something wrapped tightly in cloth. A soft, muffled rustling accompanies her movements, as if the suitcase itself holds a secret too big to remain hidden. Sarah's hand hovers over it, knowing that she's about to witness something that might change everything. The world around her slows as she unfurls the bundle with delicate fingers. The cloth falls away to reveal a small, trembling mass. A baby wrapped in layers of protective fabric, its skin pale and fragile, its tiny chest rising and falling with shallow, weak breaths. Sarah's heart pounds in her chest, her breath catching in her throat. The noise of the airport seems to dim as the magnitude of what she's holding sets in. The canine stands silent now, watching intently, as though the mystery is no longer for it to solve. The room around Sarah, full of bustle and noise just moments ago, is now suffocatingly quiet, filled only with the sound of her breath, the baby's gasps, and the sound of her racing heart. A shout rings out, loud enough to shatter the delicate silence. "What's in there?" someone demands, their voice sharp. The tension in the air becomes palpable, every second stretching longer than the last. It's then that Sarah notices the cold sheen of sweat on her forehead. She's staring at a child, an infant, abandoned. Her mind races through 1,000 thoughts, each one more horrifying than the last. Who could leave a baby in a suitcase? How could they just discard it? The sound of approaching footsteps grows louder. Security officers rush past, ignoring the murmurs of the crowd, eyes fixed on Sarah and the child in her arms. The canine handler backs away slowly, holding the child close, her mind a whirlwind of panic and disbelief. She needs to act, but what can she do? This wasn't part of her training. There's no manual for this moment. No lesson for the twisted horror of finding a baby abandoned in an airport. Is it alive? Someone asks. Sarah doesn't answer. She can't. All she can do is cradle the fragile life in her arms and wait for help. For the moment when the terrifying unknown will give way to something more manageable. Even if she knows that what comes next will be just as uncertain. Minutes pass like hours, each one filled with an unbearable heaviness. The canine's whine, the baby's soft breath, the harsh whispers of the crowd, they all blend into a single, overwhelming roar in Sarah's ears. Her pulse thuds in her temples. Then, finally, security arrives. Is it all right? One officer asks, kneeling beside her, his voice strained. His eyes flicker to the baby, a flash of shock crossing his face. She's alive, Sarah whispers, her voice thick with emotion. But barely. They work swiftly, without question. The baby is wrapped in a warm blanket, and an emergency medical team is summoned. Sarah follows, her thoughts still a mess of confusion and guilt, but also, strangely, relief. The baby was alive, and that was something. It was a sliver of hope, a flicker of life against the dark backdrop of cruelty. The sound of footsteps, the hurried activity, all fades as Sarah steps outside the chaotic world of the airport and into something quieter, into the unknown future that this tiny human now faces. The baby, now safe and sound in the care of medical professionals, begins to recover. The images of that moment, the suitcase, the trembling child, begin to haunt Sarah's nights. But as she watches the baby thrive under the tender care of the hospital staff, something inside her begins to heal. She realizes that in a small way, she had been part of something bigger. Her hands had saved a life. It was a simple act of rescue, but it was enough to break through the walls of cynicism and fear that had begun to form in her heart. Months later, she returns to the airport, the dog still working alongside her. The canine barks once more, a familiar, cheerful noise now, one that marks the start of another day. But Sarah knows she's different. Something has shifted in her, not just in the way she looks at the world, but in the way she lives in it. In the way she values life, in all its fragile beauty. The suitcase, once an object of horror, now stands as a symbol of hope, of a future not defined by darkness, but by the light that can be found in the smallest acts of kindness and courage. And for Sarah, that is enough. The weight of the baby's rescue lingers long after the crisis is over. Weeks pass, and Sarah returns to her routine. The training, the surveillance, the steady rhythm of her canine duties. But there's always a gnawing sense of something unfinished, a small, persistent ache that tugs at her heart, reminding her of the little girl, still too small to understand the depths of what had happened to her. It's in the quiet moments, when the airport hums with the usual, steady noise, that Sarah feels it. The haunting of that suitcase, of the life inside, the life she'd saved. She visits the hospital every week. Her official duty had ended, but her heart still belonged to the child. She talks with the doctors, watches the small, fragile infant grow stronger day by day. The medical staff calls her the rescuer, and though Sarah is humbled by their praise, she knows the truth. She didn't rescue the baby alone. The child had done her part too, holding on, fighting just long enough to give Sarah the chance to intervene. In many ways, they had saved each other. The child, who had no name when she was found, is now known as Maya. And with every week that passes, she becomes a little more than just a survivor. She's a symbol of resilience, of the quiet victories that happen when no one is watching. Maya's bright, dark eyes follow Sarah whenever she enters the hospital room, and for the first time since the rescue, Sarah allows herself to let go of the guilt that has gripped her heart since that day. Maya is not a tragedy. She's a new beginning. But it's not easy. There are moments when Sarah can still see the faint marks on the baby's skin, the telltale signs of her harrowing ordeal. There are times when Sarah stays up at night, unable to shake the image of that suitcase, of the cruel hands that had packed her away. The anger resurfaces, hot and sudden. But when she feels that rush of fury, she pushes it away, focusing instead on Maya's fragile hands wrapped around her fingers. As the weeks blend together, the weight of the past begins to feel more like a memory than a fresh wound. Sarah finds herself in the sterile hospital rooms more often than not. Every time she walks through the sliding doors, Maya's little face lights up. She smiles now, a tiny curve of her lips that makes Sarah's heart swell. The team of doctors, nurses, and therapists have all noticed the way Maya responds to Sarah. It's almost as if, deep down, the baby knows who was there when she needed someone most. Maya's growth becomes a delicate dance. Each step forward feels like a monumental victory. She begins to sit up, to smile at the people who care for her, to coo in her sleep. But Sarah knows better than to get comfortable. She knows the world is a cruel, unpredictable place, and she's seen firsthand how quickly things can change. One afternoon, as the late afternoon light spills into the room, Sarah picks up Maya, cradling her gently. The soft, warm weight of her against Sarah's chest makes everything feel right. It's in this quiet moment that the full scope of the past few weeks hits Sarah. She looks down at the tiny baby, now cooing and giggling as Sarah bounces her lightly on her knee. This is it. This is life. Outside, the world continues to turn, people rushing from place to place, moving on from their own struggles, oblivious to the miracle unfolding in this small room. And yet, Sarah knows that this, Maya's life, her survival, her future, is no small thing. It's everything. Maya is now 2 months old. The hospital has become her second home, but Sarah doesn't mind. The woman who had been a mere stranger to Maya when she was first found now feels like a second mother. She knows Maya better than anyone else, knows her cries, her little quirks, her sleepy smiles. But Sarah is also a realist. She knows that the baby can't stay in the hospital forever. She knows that one day, Maya will need to find a home, a family. And in that realization, Sarah's heart clenches. She talks with social workers, with child services, and they all agree Maya is ready for a family. But that doesn't make the thought any easier. It's been months of bonding, of helping Maya grow, of being the one person who showed up when the world had left her behind. Letting go is harder than Sarah could have ever imagined. Yet, deep down, she knows it's the right thing to do. Sarah's world is full of change. She's spent so many years on the move, on the go, training dogs, chasing criminals, always ahead of herself. But this is different. This is life she's nurturing. And for the first time, she feels torn between her duty to the world and her deep love for this baby who has changed her in ways she couldn't have predicted. The day Maya leaves the hospital, Sarah holds her close, whispering a promise into the quiet room. You're going to be okay. You're going to have the life you deserve. Months pass. The world continues to move, unaware of the small, miraculous journey that had taken place in an airport terminal, in a sterile hospital room, and in the quiet, fragile moments of a mother's love. Maya is thriving now, a little girl bouncing and giggling. She's grown strong and full of life, and Sarah, though she doesn't see her every day anymore, knows that Maya's new parents will make sure of it. One day, Sarah receives a letter from the couple who adopted Maya. It's a short note filled with gratitude and warmth. Maya is flourishing, they write. She is loved beyond measure. You gave her the greatest gift of all, a chance at life. Sarah smiles as she reads the words. She knows that Maya will never know the full extent of what she went through, what it took for her to survive. But Sarah will never forget the quiet strength that radiated from the tiny girl in that suitcase. That strength lives on in Sarah too. As Sarah steps outside, the sun setting against the horizon, she looks out over the airport one last time. There's a peace within her, a quiet knowing that her life has been forever changed by a single moment, a single child. And as the night falls, she whispers to the breeze, "Goodbye, Maya. You're free." The months blur together, each one leaving behind traces of a story that Sarah will carry forever, etched into the deepest corners of her soul. The sound of Maya's cries, the feeling of her small body against Sarah's chest, and the weight of the suitcase that once held a life in desperate need. All of it lingers like an unfinished symphony. But as time marches on, Sarah learns to embrace the silence that follows. Maya's life is no longer her responsibility, but her heart still holds onto the girl as if she were her own. One evening, while sitting alone at the edge of the hospital garden, Sarah watches the sunset, its orange and purple hues spilling across the sky in wide, sweeping strokes. The world is quiet, peaceful, but in Sarah's mind, it's far from calm. A part of her feels disconnected from everything she once knew. The rush, the urgency, the coldness of the world that seemed to never stop moving. She takes a deep breath, and the cool air fills her lungs. But the weight of everything she's experienced holds her in place, tethered to a past that refuses to let go. Her phone buzzes in her pocket. It's an update on Maya, a picture of the little girl, wide-eyed and grinning, sitting in her new parents' lap. She looks healthy, happy, and for the first time in a long while, Sarah allows herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the future is as bright as it seems. The picture brings tears to her eyes. She wipes them away quickly, not wanting anyone to see her vulnerability, but the tears don't stop. They slip down her cheeks, unbidden as she stares at the image. A piece of her heart, once so broken, now begins to heal. The quiet that settles in her chest is not one of sorrow, but of peace. It's as though the earth has shifted under her, and she is finally standing on solid ground. She is no longer a rescuer of the broken. She is a witness to something far greater than herself. It's an ordinary morning when Sarah receives a call that she never expected. The voice on the other end is soft but firm. "We're looking for a new K9 handler," the woman says, her tone professional. "You've been recommended." For a moment, Sarah doesn't know how to respond. The world has moved on from that fateful day at the airport. She's moved on too, or so she thought. The K9 unit has become a part of her life, but the reality of moving forward feels like an unsettling promise. "I think you'd be a great fit," the woman continues. "Are you interested?" She stares out the window, the bustling world below her seeming distant, as though it belongs to someone else. She feels an unfamiliar pull inside, something deeper than duty, something far more personal. She knows what this call means. It means returning to the work she's always known, the job she's always been good at. But it also means leaving behind the stillness that has settled inside her heart. As the phone call ends, Sarah stands up and walks to the window, her hand resting against the cool glass. Outside, the city is waking up, just as she is, to a new reality. For a long time, she's been afraid of returning to her past, of confronting the side of herself that had been hardened by her work and security. But now, looking out at the world, she knows she's ready. The K9 unit wasn't just a job for her, it was her purpose. The work that had once been her escape now holds the promise of growth, of finding her own healing in the midst of the chaos. And as Sarah takes a deep breath, she knows one thing for certain. She will never be the same. Not after Maya, not after that suitcase, and not after everything she's seen and done. She's stronger now, more whole than before. But she's also more vulnerable, more human. And that, she realizes, is where true strength lies. A year later, Sarah stands in front of a new K9 recruit, her hands steady as she adjusts the leash. The dog, a young German shepherd full of energy and potential, looks up at her with wide, eager eyes. She smiles, her lips soft. But there's something deeper in the way she carries herself now. A sense of calm, of purpose, that wasn't there before. It's the kind of peace that only comes from knowing that, despite everything, you've done the right thing. Behind her, the city continues to hum with life. But for Sarah, the world is no longer just a place to move through. It's a place to be fully present in, to take on with both hands, as messy and unpredictable as it may be. As she walks through the streets, her K9 by her side, Sarah sees the world with fresh eyes. She feels the weight of the past, but it doesn't burden her anymore. It's a part of her, a chapter she's written and can now look back on without regret. The story she's been a part of isn't over. It's just begun. The sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the pavement. Sarah and her K9 pause for a moment, watching the colors bleed across the sky. It's a perfect, fleeting moment, one that feels both final and infinite. And in the silence of the evening, Sarah finally understands. She's been a part of something far bigger than herself. She's been a part of a journey of healing, of redemption, of love. and though the road ahead may be uncertain, she's ready for whatever comes next. In that moment, with the dog by her side and the city spread out before her, Sarah realizes that the most beautiful part of life isn't in the destination. It's in the people, the moments, and the quiet acts of kindness that make it all worth living. And as she walks forward, the sunset wrapping around her like a warm embrace, she knows that whatever happens next, she will meet it with courage, with love, and with an open heart. Because she's finally home. It's an ordinary Tuesday when Sarah receives a letter in the mail. At first, it doesn't seem out of the ordinary. A simple envelope with no return address. But something in the weight of it catches her attention. The thick paper, the lack of a stamp, the way it seems to have arrived with a purpose. Inside, there is only one line of text. Maya is looking for you. Her heart stops for a moment. The world shifts. The ground beneath her feels uncertain. It's as if, in that single sentence, the entire story has come rushing back. The suitcase, the child, the bond she thought she'd let go of. Maya. It's been nearly a year since Sarah last held her, since she last whispered the promise of a bright future. Maya had been thriving, Sarah knew that. But something about this. Something about the way Maya is now searching for her, pulls at the deepest corners of Sarah's heart. The letter doesn't say more, but Sarah doesn't need more. She knows what she has to do. The phone call comes soon after, the voice of the adoptive mother on the other end, kind but hesitant. Maya has been asking about you. She says you're her hero. She wants to know who saved her. Sarah's heart clenches. It's an odd sensation, hearing those words. The word hero feels foreign to her now. She's not a hero. She's just someone who did the right thing when it was needed most. But to Maya, Sarah will always be something more. Weeks later, Sarah finds herself standing outside a small, cozy house nestled on the edge of the city. The porch light is on, casting a warm glow across the front yard. The air is thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth, the kind of smell that makes everything feel fresh and new. As Sarah approaches the door, she pauses. Her hand rests on the doorknob, but she hesitates, unsure of what to expect. Will it be like before? Will the connection still be there? The door opens before she can knock, and standing there is Maya, her dark eyes wide with curiosity and excitement. She's taller now, a little girl with a playful grin that Sarah instantly recognizes. For a moment, time seems to stand still. The girl she once rescued, the girl she promised would be all right, is standing here, smiling up at her. Maya's parents stand behind her, eyes filled with warmth. Maya, sweetheart. This is the person I told you about, her adoptive mother says softly. Maya steps forward, her small hands reaching out. You're the one who saved me, she asks, her voice tentative but filled with hope. Sarah kneels, the weight of the moment settling into her chest. Yes, I'm the one, she says, her voice thick with emotion. I'm so glad you're okay. The little girl nods solemnly, then smiles. I always knew you were my hero, she says, the words tumbling out as though they've been waiting for this moment to arrive. Sarah feels a lump form in her throat. She's not a hero. She never wanted to be. But here, in this simple moment, with Maya reaching out to her, Sarah realizes something. She doesn't need to be a hero. She just needed to be there. Just needed to show up. Maya pulls her into a hug, and for a brief moment, Sarah lets herself feel the fullness of the love that's poured into this little girl's life. The love she never thought she'd have the chance to experience. The love she wasn't sure she deserved. The day passes in a blur of laughter and stories. Sarah spends hours with Maya, watching her run around the backyard, playing with a small puppy that's clearly stolen her heart. Maya's adoptive parents, kind and gracious, share their own stories of her growth. They talk about how she's blossomed into a joyful, curious child, a child who asks questions about the world and isn't afraid to explore it. Sarah watches, a quiet observer, her heart full of something she hasn't quite named yet. As the sun begins to set, casting a golden light over the yard, Sarah finds herself sitting on the porch swing. Maya joins her, curling up beside her, still holding onto that tiny puppy. I want to be like you when I grow up, Maya says quietly, looking up at Sarah with those wide, trusting eyes. I want to be strong like you. The words hit Sarah harder than she expected. She didn't set out to be a role model. She didn't want to be anyone's symbol of strength. But now, in this moment, she realizes that the strength she gave to Maya, the quiet support, the act of showing up, that's what made a difference. Not the grand gestures, not the heroism, but the simple, steady presence that says, "You're not alone. I'm just me." Sarah replies softly, gazing out at the fading light. "But I'm glad I was able to help you, Maya." There's a long pause, the only sound the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. And then Maya leans against her, resting her head on Sarah's shoulder. "I'll never forget you," she whispers, as if it's the most natural thing in the world. For the first time in a long while, Sarah doesn't feel like she's carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. For the first time, she feels at peace. Not because she saved a life, but because she was part of something bigger than herself. Something that will continue to grow, just like Maya, into something beautiful and full of promise. As the stars begin to appear in the sky, Sarah knows that she will always be a part of Maya's story, and in turn, Maya will always be a part of hers. In the quiet of the evening, surrounded by the sound of laughter and life, Sarah understands that the true measure of a hero isn't in the rescues or the grand moments. It's in the quiet moments of connection, of unconditional love, and the promise of a life well lived for both of them. As Sarah walks back to her car, the familiar weight of the world on her shoulders, she feels something inside her shift once again. The journey that started with an abandoned suitcase, with a cry for help, has come full circle. It wasn't just about rescuing a child. It was about healing a part of herself that had been lost. It was about seeing the beauty in the small moments, in the quiet acts of kindness that ripple out into the world. The road ahead is still uncertain. Life will continue to throw challenges her way. But for now, in this moment, Sarah knows she's exactly where she's meant to be, not just as a rescuer, but as a witness to the most powerful force of all, love. And with that, she smiles softly, a weight lifted, knowing that the journey isn't over. It's just beginning. As Sarah walks back to her car, the familiar weight of the world feels lighter than it ever has. The sunset, still casting a soft glow over the quiet street, seems to echo the peace she feels inside. She can't help but think about how the world, with all its noise, its chaos and its heartbreak, had a way of changing her piece by piece. And now, standing here, in this moment, she understands the significance of it all. It wasn't the rescues, the adrenaline, or even the accolades that mattered in the end. It was the small, quiet acts of love, of showing up when no one else did, of offering something as simple as kindness and compassion. These were the moments that truly shaped who she had become. As she reaches the driver's side, she pauses, looking back one last time at the house where Maya now lives. She can hear the laughter of the little girl, the sound of her joy reaching Sarah's ears like a melody, the sweetest song of all. It fills her heart with a warmth she hasn't felt in years. Maya was safe. Maya was thriving. And in that moment, Sarah knows her work is done, not because she saved a life, but because she played a part in something far greater, the continuation of a journey that began with a cry for help, one that ended in a new beginning. The engine hums to life as Sarah pulls away from the curb, her mind still reeling with the images of the day. Maya's smiling face, her tiny hands reaching out, and the promise she had whispered, "I'll never forget you." Sarah's heart swells with the weight of those words. The stars, now visible in the darkening sky, seem to reflect a quiet sense of completion. For the first time in a long while, Sarah feels as though the puzzle pieces of her life have fallen into place. She's no longer defined by the trauma of the past or the chaos of the work she once thought was her only purpose. She's not just a rescuer. She's someone who's learned to heal, to connect, and to embrace the beauty of the present moment. As she drives through the quiet streets, a soft smile forms on her lips. She's not sure where life will take her next, but for the first time, she feels ready for whatever comes. She no longer needs to search for meaning in the world. She's found it, in the smallest of moments, in the connections she's made, and in the heart of the child she saved. Sarah takes a deep breath, letting the stillness of the night settle around her. She's done her part. She's been a witness to something beautiful. And now, she's free to step into the future with the peace that only comes when you know you've lived your truth. As the car drives forward, the soft hum of the wheels on the road beneath her, she whispers quietly to herself, "This is enough. I'm enough." And with that, the world opens up before her.